You may know him as the Genius or Leaping Lanny Poffo. How you doing, buddy?
I'm very excited, but then I am very easily excited.
Yeah, no, believe us, we are very easily excited too, except for one of us who's never excited. You know what? I'm gonna get right into it. Yeah, sorry, Adam Wells. Don't mean to throw you right under the bus like that. First, I got my first question. Listen, I loved you as a wrestler, but I loved you because you were like, during a time of big guys, you were like a high flyer. You did all the senton bomb and everything. Where'd the idea come from to be like a high flyer? Because it was still the age of big guys at the time. So where did the idea come from to be a high flyer?
I had to take advantage of my positives, which were I am not a big man, so I do big moves. And that was my father always taught both Randy and I, there's got to be a reason. Why would a fan pay money to see you? And try to figure that out. And it doesn't matter what your answer is, as long as they pay money to see you. So I'm not a big guy, and I'm not this and I'm not that. Well, I already know what I'm not, but it was very easy for me to do gymnastics. And I also, I have been accused of being the inventor of the moonsault. And I cannot tell a lie. About 5 minutes after I saw Tiger Mask do it against my kid at Square Garden.
Oh, you're breaking up a little bit, Lanny. I heard you saw Tiger Mask, and that's where you got the idea from?
Tiger Mask did the moonsault before me. I copied it from Tiger Mask.
No, hey, listen, there's nothing wrong with that. That's all what wrestling is passing that moves. But listen, I know you lost a few matches in the beginning of your run with the WWF, but once you got rolling, that move, it ended up catching fire with a lot of different wrestlers. It was awesome.
Yeah, and like I say, and everybody blames me for inventing it. I never invented it. I don't think the only thing that I can say is original is my poetry. Even the lousy ones, I did them all myself. So...
No, I've heard them. They're not that lousy, believe me. When you work with someone who writes like our friend Adam Wells over here, your poetry is miles above where most people's are. Go ahead, Adam Wells. You got a question, buddy?
Yeah, Lenny, you're talking about your poetry and how you incorporated that into your act. Was there like any specific example from your past that you decided that, hey, I want to use this gimmick of reading poetry to kind of get myself over or berate the other guy?
Actually, that's a very good question, and I've got the absolute answer that you're wanting. I was on TNT. I bet you're too young to know what that is.
TNT, the channel, or we miss it?
Tuesday Night Titans. It was like a Johnny Carson Tonight Show, except the host was Vince McMahon, and the Ed McMahon was Lord Alfred Hayes. Are you familiar with what I'm saying?
No.
I've heard of it.
Well, Adam Wells maybe. I was born in 1987. I do not know what you're talking about.
Well, this was 1985, and they had a talk show on the USA Network. And I finally got to be a guest on that show after being in the WWF for 3 months. And so they decided to use me as a guest, and I was deathly afraid of being boring and not invited back, because that would be a fate worse than death in wrestling. So I wrote a poem. First of all, I came out in a suit of armor. Nothing boring about that, right? And then I did this poem. Look back through the annals of history in the Wrestling Hall of Fame, men from all nations with courage to spare who struggled to carve out a name. Now compare these high standards of valor to those chivalrous knights of yore, with bravery staunch as their armor, their glory both legend and lore. My medieval connection with wrestling relives that magnificent past. Although mindless skeptics may snicker and scoff, the winner is he who laughs last. Alive with the love of wrestling, I appear on TNT between Vince and Awful Alfred, the hottest show on. I'm not your average wrestler, but I wouldn't want to be. I never scream or kiss my arms. I'm happy just being me. I call myself Leaping Lanny. I validate what I say to every single wrestling fan who's watching USA. Yes, I believe in miracles. As God has blessed this great land, I believe the referee will soon be raising my hand. And then we went to commercial black. Vince McMahon said, Lanny, that was great. From now on, you do a poem before every match.
That's awesome. Do you remember that
amazing.
right off the top of your head from all those years ago?
Yes, as many chair shots as I've taken, yes.
Nice.
But I can't find my keys right now, and I lost my wallet. But I can remember both.
Short-term memory, not so good. Long-term, much better.
Yes.
Brandon Galvin?
Yeah, so aside from the poetry, which other wrestlers and performers did you look to as inspiration? You mentioned Tiger Mask. Besides him, who else?
Well, everybody asked me what gave me the idea to throw Frisbees out. And actually, does anybody know the name Al Costello?
I do not
do,
myself. Yeah. Oh, Adam Wells again. Mr. Adam Wells, our history buff.
Who is Al Costello? And why is he saying horrible things about me? Now, go ahead. Do you know who Al Costello is? And don't look on Google.
Yeah, don't look on Google, Adam Wells.
I hear that typing.
He doesn't know. I've
heard the name. I know the name. That's all I know. I don't know a
Lanny,
lot about him.
You should write a poem about Adam Wells.
I do know the name.
You should write a poem about him.
In the late 50s and early 60s, Al Costello was tag team with Roy Hefferman, and their manager was Wild Red Berry. And they are called the Fabulous Kangaroos. And they are, except for Red Berry, they're both from Australia. And they came into the ring wearing their Aussie hats and their Aussie boots and and a silhouette of a kangaroo on their trunks. And they also carried boomerangs, real boomerangs carved by Aborigines, legitimate boomerangs. And they also had with their pictures on it and information about the for souvenirs for the fans, and they would throw the boomerangs out into the audience. Well, two of the fans that scampered for boomerangs, one of them became the Macho Man Randy Savage, the other one became Leaping Lanny and the Genius, and I never forget how excited I was as a fan to get a boomerang thrown from the ring. And I thought, and then I got scrolls when they gave me the poetry gimmick, and I wrote poetry out. Didn't get over, and it didn't fly well. It didn't go far, and that's that means only the expensive seats can have your poetry. So I said, I need something that's not a boomerang that really flies. And I said, well, stupid, how about a Frisbee? And that was, and I had the poems printed on there, and then I would write poems on the inside or put it on paper and put it on the inside, and the people would go wild when I threw the Frisbees.
Yeah, I remember seeing footage of that. You'd come out, you'd do your poem, then you'd have the last one, you'd read the poem from the last one, then throw that one out. That was good stuff. Mike Cahill?
When I was doing well as Leaping Lanny, and then when they got rid of George Scott, that was the end of my push. And a lot of the wrestlers, they brought in new people, and a lot of the wrestlers that were with me got mad and quit. Well, I got mad and stayed. And the first guy I wrestled was Hercules Hernandez. And not only, so I said, well, they're going to give him a big break and put him with Hogan. And not only that, but I just noticed that Jesse Ventura was bald last month, and now this week he's got a wig. So I said, I can't not say something about that. So I said, Hercules Hernandez is a mountain of a man. His body is impervious to pain. But all of his decisions he is leaving up to Heenan. That indicates he doesn't have a brain. I know you doubt my sanity for facing such a man. I realize that he is awfully big. But I came here to fight the odds and score a victory. That ought to make Ventura flip his wig. And then, of course, the people go crazy. Ventura pouts and, felt like a champion, like he's humiliated. And, if you're going to, in other words, whether you're going to win or you're going to lose, just pop the crowd in any manner you can. And I wanted the fans never to go to the bathroom, never to get popcorn during my match. Some of them did, but I try to get a lot of them not to.
That's a great point. Al Snow, a fellow wrestler, said that a few weeks back. He said the exact same thing. It doesn't matter. No, once you get in that ring, there's nobody that can get you over with that crowd but you. And I truly, like you just said, backed up, and every wrestler we ever talk to, they back it up. Your gimmick is you. You need to sell it hard, or no one will ever buy it. If you don't buy it, no one will.
Let me tell you about Al Snow. I was in Germany with him a couple years ago, and he not only, I'm sure he was a great guest on your show, his personality made the trip fly by. You know, he is, the guy has got, I'm sure he was a fantastic guest for you guys.
Yes, he was amazing. He was out of this world.
Well, here's the thing about Al Snow. He's just as amazing when he's not being interviewed.
Yeah, he seems like a genuine dude. Like, you could sit down with him and just talk for an hour and not even realize, oh, this is somebody famous. This is somebody who's got, you know what I mean?
Same with Bobby Heenan in his day. Not only was he a great talker on the microphone, but when the red light was off, he was an interesting person to be with. He'd have you laughing. Great, you know. But I was with Al Snow, and I'll tell you what, you know, Germany. I'm still lucky at my age, 57, that I'm invited to go to places like that. But some of the trip can be boring. You know, if the trips are long and this and that. You know what I'm saying? It can be the best and worst of times. But when you're around an upbeat guy like Al Snow, what a fantastic personality. And I never actually knew him very much because, you know, I'm a lot older than he is, and his heyday came after mine. But this is, you know, if you're on the happy bus, everybody's happy. If you're on the sad bus, boy, those boys can be miserable sometimes.
Yeah, I'm sure. MC, you got a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to see if you could take us back to sort of the beginning. You and your brother Randy have such a rich history in professional wrestling. How did you guys get your start, and when did you guys know that this is what you wanted to dedicate your life to learning this craft?
Well, all three of us, my father, my brother, and myself, all wanted to be baseball players. And I was kind of lucky that I wasn't as good as Randy, because that gave him 4 years in the minor leagues. Now, he claimed that was actually good for him. But every year he came back, you know, and spending the winter, I noticed there was a little less of him that came back as he was realizing that being the best player in Downers Grove, Illinois, didn't really make a difference because everybody was the greatest on their little town. You see what I mean? And then many are called and few are chosen. So, and then he got into wrestling, and he gave all of his life to baseball, and then he decided there's got to be a way that I can make it to the top in wrestling. And he gave his absolute life to wrestling, and 10 years later, he's in Madison Square Garden.
That's insane.
And when he got in Madison Square Garden, the fans immediately realized that this was the greatest talent ever, and so did the WWF. I mean, he was, and of course, if you want to know, he deserved it 5 years before he got it.
Well, it's true. The way the WWE ran itself, it's a hierarchy, and they felt he had to earn his keep. But you know, you can tell with the whole Mega Powers angle. Hulk Hogan wanted him with him. He knew how big Macho Man was going to be and how great he was. So I mean, when somebody like Hulk Hogan wants to ride your coattails in the heyday of his life, that's huge.
Well, first Randy and him were adversaries in the ring, and then they became partners, and then adversaries again. And Hogan knew that Macho Man had the goods, and that's why Hogan is nothing but business. You know, he would always think, how can we make this better? And you know, it's never about one guy; it's a team. You know, it's like when you see a beautiful home, it's the carpenters, it's everybody contributes to the success. And the trouble is, human nature says there's some jealousy, petty, and ego. So, you know, you got a lousy crowd out there, everybody blames the other guy. You got a great crowd is never an orphan.
That's a good point. Everybody wants to claim it. That's perfectly true. Adam Wells, you got a question?